So, hi everybody, welcome along. It's Tuesday morning, and for those online, welcome to our class. As you know, we're doing after class 25, and I'll introduce you to the topic of throwing karma and completing karma today. We'll begin as we normally do by taking refuge together, generating an altruistic intention for the study. We'll say a few prayers and we'll actually begin the course. And during the course, there's moments where we can ask questions and there'll be time for meditation also. Now, just please try to get comfortable in your seat. It's ideal if your back is straight and your shoulders are relaxed, that your hands are in a position where they feel comfortable and that your feet are either flat on the floor or on a cushion, but that they're stable. Your eyes can be open or closed or partially open. And when you feel comfortable in your seat, let your body breathe itself. And while the body is breathing itself, become aware of any feelings or movements within the body as you inhale and exhale. And let yourself relax into awareness. And from within the state of relaxed awareness, imagine that the ground beneath you has a nature of starry sapphire light, and it is as soft and light as a cloud. And the space above you is filled with rainbows and offerings. And appearing in the space directly in front of you appears the throne. And on that throne is a lotus, and lying on the lotus is the sun and moon sitting flat like a cushion. And on that moon seat is sitting the Buddha Shakyamuni, golden in colour, wearing the three robes of the monk. His left hand is holding a bowl and his right hand is touching the earth. Now, the Buddha is surrounded by many other enlightened beings. And you find yourself surrounded by all sentient beings. These include your parents, with your mother sitting beside you on the left and your father on the right. Family members and close friends are sitting behind you. Difficult people are directly in front of you. And strangers surround you. And here you should think that you're leading all these sentient beings, your mother, father, family, friends, difficult people and strangers, in the safe direction of the Buddha and his teachings and the spiritual community. You recollect how fortunate you are to still be alive and to be able to do this. You have the leisure and opportunity to attain your spiritual goals. You need to act quickly though, because things are not quite right. And this world does not exist as it seems to. Nevertheless, you do have a spiritual friend who's leading you in the safe direction of the three rare sublime ones. The teacher, Buddha, his teachings, Dharma, and the Sangha, the spiritual community of the awakened ones. So now to make our offering of practice as purely as possible, imagine yourself to be as clear as the deity. So your body is made of light. It's as clear and insubstantial as a soap bubble. And as a deity, you're holding a vajra and bell, and you're sitting within a sphere of great bliss. And it's from within this sphere of great bliss that you say, I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. And from the heart of the Buddha, and from the heart of each enlightened being above you, lights and nectars stream down, dissolving into yourself and all living beings surrounding you. And all negative karmas and obstructions are purified, such that your health and lifespan, your virtues and realizations are increased. So cleansed by wisdom and love, you recollect the four immeasurable thoughts of love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. And you decide to boundaries yourself and to establish all beings into these four immeasurable states. And to affirm that, you say, may all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings never be separated from the happiness that is without suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from the vice of attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. So from the heart of the Buddha and the enlightened beings surrounding them, lights and nectar stream down and dissolve into yourself and all living beings surrounding you. The negative karmas and obstructions are purified. And your health and lifespan, virtues and realizations are increased. So after the next exhalation, just allow yourself to relax a little more. And from that relaxed state of awareness, invite the field for accumulated merit. Here. And you say in front of them, reverently I prostrate with my body, speech and mind. I present clouds of every type of offering, actual and imagined. I declare all my negative actions accumulated since beginning this time, and rejoice in the merit of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until the end of cyclic existence and turn the wheel of Dharma for living beings. I dedicate my own and others' merits to the great enlightenment. So having purified the body, speech and mind somewhat and accumulated some merit, we do not want to cling to these two actions as if they had any true existence. So to stop ourselves doing that, we imagine that our body, speech and mind, our merits and enjoyments are utterly transformed and reappear as a pure land. And we're going to offer this pure land to the Buddha and his spiritual entourage. And so we say, this ground, anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, four quantums, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha field and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. Idam Guru The offering has been released and accepted by the Buddha and the entourage, and the Buddha smiles at us with delight, and we look up and meet his gaze. We see that within his eyes he has appreciation for what we've done. There's also great humility, wisdom, and kindness. And under the gaze of the Buddha, we recollect our wish to give up suffering and its causes. That we want to do this for the benefit of all beings, and know to help all beings we need to become enlightened. And to become enlightened we need to have a correct view. A correct view that sees all phenomena as empty and dependently arising. So induced by our wishes and practice, there emerges from the Buddha a second figure who absorbs into you. And your form clearly becomes that of a Guru Buddha. From your heart, light rays strike all sentient beings surrounding you and place them all in the state of enlightenment. From within this great field of enlightenment, you hear the sound of the path resonating. And you join in saying, Jayata Muni Muni Mahamunaya Soha Jayata Muni Muni Mahamunaya Soha Jayata Muni Muni Mahamunaya Soha. Mahamunaya Saha. The two purposes have been achieved. You've been able to bring about your own enlightenment, and after all, other beings become fully awakened also. You recollect that this is a meditation that is primarily imaginative. Nevertheless, by going through this process, you have created virtue. So think, by this virtue, may you quickly achieve the state of a Guru Buddha and place all sentient beings, without exception, into that actual state. And you're breathing in through your nostrils, exhale through your mouth. And you know, time now, just let your eyes flush open. Move your body in whichever way you'd like to. And just with your eyes open now, make yourself comfortable in your seat. Okay, so let's have a look at what we've covered. So last, I think we went through mental karma. Before that, we went through physical and verbal karma. We looked at some of the results of those karmas. So if you remember, we had 3 major types of result, and one of those major results was broken into 2. We had a result called the fruitional result. Anybody know what that is? In your own words, what is the fruitional result? You remember? Yeah, so the fruitional result is the effect of being reborn. It's the rebirth result. So we are experiencing the fruitional result of being a human being. The fruit of our virtue, and our past virtue, has brought about this rebirth. In this rebirth, there's another type, there are 2 other types, 3 other effects. One is called the environmental effect. So this is our environment that we're in. While we're here, we have 2 other results called behavioral results and experiential results. So our behavior can be very much like in past lives, and experiences are very similar to the causes that were created in the past. Now, our actions are made up of 4 parts. Can anybody recollect what some of those parts are? So we carry out an action, what needs to be in place?
Intention.
An intention, this is right. So the thought or the intention, that's right.
You need the object.
We need the object, that's right. So we've got a basis, the object, and we've got an intention or the thought. Then there's the
Action.
Excellent. And at the end of the action finishes, and there's culmination, isn't it? Or it finishes. And if all 4 are in place, we have a seed. That seed is what we're referring to as karma. To bring about that, when these seeds are created, there are 4 principles associated with them. The first being that karma is certain, or that karma is definite. What is definite about karma? What is certain about it? Anybody?
Negative karma causes negative consequences.
Fantastic. Thank you. That's right. That's what we want to take away. And positive karma, positive actions bring about positive consequences. This is definite. It's never you do a positive action and you get a negative result. It's never the case that you do a negative action and get a positive result. It's the other way. This isn't said. That's what's definite. The other thing that says that karma magnifies. So does anyone have any idea what that might mean? Well, it's magnified or it's increased. That's right. Yeah, that's right. So the consequences of these small actions, like the power of the activity, can create a much larger effect over time. You know, we gave the example of water dripping into a bucket. It's just a very small thing. But over time, the bucket fills up, there's a lot of water there, and that lot of water can do something else, can't it? There are 2 other principles about karma. Can anybody remember what they might be? That destroy it doesn't just, you can destroy it, it just doesn't vanish of its own accord. And the other one is that,
what the result is similar to the cause. So that if you're, for example, if you were going to be killed, then the result later on in another rebirth might be your life is shorter.
Yes, that's true. It's just not the answer for this one. So you're quite correct. That's exactly what happens. It
So
says that
karma is definite. Was that the one you
it was the very first one, right? It was karma is definite. The one is that you cannot experience the result of a cause you have not created. So we go to the beginning. Karma is certain. Karma increases or magnifies. Karma is never just lost, and you cannot experience an effect or a result of a cause you have not created. So they're the 4 principles. And what karma actually is just the intentions. Often in the West, they often talk about karma being the effect. But in fact, karma is really the cause of things. And this cause is called an intention. So I'm so glad I do these classes and do them for them. Because I never remember this. So I'm a bit of an advantage over everybody else. I've done it so many times and now doing it fresh again. It's like, oh, thank goodness, it's sticking. And like I said, this is a big topic and we're only covering like some of it. There's a lot we don't have the space to or time to. But they're the main things to remember, these 4 principles. These are some very useful books about karma. They're the primary books that I've been relying upon. But today we're going to talk about, it's called throwing karma and completing karma. And what we're going to see here is what's the difference between these two. And I have to give you an example of each. Let's start with the throwing karma. So anybody not having any idea what a throwing karma might be? It's a strange term, isn't it, really? A karma, that's an activity that's going to throw something.
Throws you into the next one.
That's what it's going to do, that's exactly right. Yeah, it's the power of the seed that you've created, meets the right conditions, especially at the time of death, and then this effect is going to take place. So that karma has to, it's been waiting, this potential that's been waiting has to be activated. Once it's activated, it's going to throw the result now. It's as if you've got a seed in a packet, right? And it hasn't met all the conditions yet. But once it does, it's going to produce its effect. It's actually going to grow up and become the plant. Right? But unless it meets the conditions, it's not going to happen. So the conditions at this time is a disturbing emotion. So throwing karma is about to do about what's going to take place at the time of your death. You have all these potentials on your mind, but the condition for it to ripen it is not in place. What it requires is a disturbing emotion, an affliction. Okay? While you're still conscious, because there comes a time while you're dying where all your conceptions just fall away. So they don't have any strength to produce the throwing karma. So it takes place while you sort of can comprehend things. Your body can think and have emotions. When they come together, so, they just like it throws you into what they call the in-between state, the bhava. You're on the spiritual journey. You've got everything in place, you're off. So that's just throwing karma. So let's have a look at what this is. So what is it? So it's described as a complete action. So the basis, thought, action, and culmination that we've been talking about, is left the seed, right, that determines which realm you'll be reborn into. So in terms of our actions, there are 3 kinds. There are non-virtuous actions, virtuous actions, and let's call it a neutral action. There's a different term they use for it, but these actions produce the rebirth in what they call the God realms and things like that. They're still within samsara, but they're not the non-virtuous or the virtuous ones. So we have this, like I said before, as you pointed out, Yvette, right? We've done this complete action. It's in place. Complete actions are very easy to create when they're negative. Non-virtuous ones are very easy. Virtuous ones are quite difficult. Virtuous ones, we often need something out. Like we don't often rejoice when we've done something good. If you look at what was your intention for doing it, it's like, it's just sort of missed out or it's quite weak. But nevertheless, once they are complete, we have what this seed. And this seed is going to meet the right conditions and throw us into the next realm. It's as if, like I said before, the analogy of the seeds. You have a number of different seeds. So like they're not all carrot seeds, some are carrot seeds, some are dandelion seeds, they're all sorts. But each of them has to meet the right conditions for them to flourish and become the plant. But the seed is there, right? And that dandelion seed is not going to turn into a carrot seed. The carrot seed is not going to turn into the seed of an apple or a pepper or anything like that, right? Those seeds are distinct seeds. They have the potential to produce only their plant, but they won't unless they meet the conditions. So the conditions, of course, for plants are soil, sunlight, water, all that sort of stuff, right? The seeds to create the conditions for the rebirth requires an afflictive emotion at the time of death. So this is why I say our training is during life is not to have an afflictive emotion at the time of death. So we can't kick off the negative seed. We want to die with a positive mind without fear. So when these actions are complete, if they're negative, they throw you and they meet the right condition at the time of death, which is be a disturbing emotion. They'll throw you in the direction of the lower realms. If it's a virtuous seed that you have created and the mind meets a virtuous mental state at the time of death, you've got two good things coming together, then it's a positive rebirth. So I guess one practical thing we could do during our lives is before acting, check to see whether all four elements are in place of the action. Like who am I? Like, so I suppose I'm talking to Ruby. So Ruby is the object or the basis. So okay, I'm speaking to Ruby. I'm not speaking to Georgie. Right? So it's clear. It's Ruby. Now, why am I speaking to her? Why am I talking to Ruby? What's my intention? You might say, oh, I just want you to hear what I've got to say. So you go, well, what if you decided, well, I've got some things to say, but my real intention is to bring her to enlightenment. And so I'm going to say this. So you can see it's not so easy, is it? Because you have to sort of think, most of us just speak. And our intentions, I just want to communicate something to the person I'm speaking to. My action, of course, is the speaking, and then I'll finish speaking, and that's what they call the culmination. There's the seed in place. Now, if it were, like I said, positive, most of the times this intention of bringing Ruby to enlightenment is not there. We need to check this ourselves. It's not an easy thing to go, wow, my intention is to bring whoever I meet every day to enlightenment. So some of you might know that lovely dedication, isn't it? Where it says, whoever sees me, speaks to me, touches me, thinks of me, may this activity be a cause or a condition leading to their enlightenment. Yeah? That's a nice way to still start your day off, because as you go through the day, that'll drop away. But this is the major thing for your day, right? Georgie?
George, Eddie, if someone's talking to you,
yeah,
and they're like showing off or just kind of attachment to that, is that seen as like wrong intention to talk? Then if they're just showing off in their dialogue towards you?
So from their point of view, yeah. So if you turn around to them and say, okay, so my idea is to talk you to show off.
Yeah.
Right? You go, yeah, this is an intention to do with this world. Right? It's not a dharma.
Even if it's got to do with Buddhism, if they're kind of like,
No, well then so what's the point of showing off to show off that you're a Buddhist?
Yeah.
Okay. So you say, okay, so you're a Buddhist who's showing off. This action is mixed up with what they call worldly concern. You're interested in your status.
Yes.
Yeah. So you go, okay, so it's a non-dharma, even though you're a Buddhist person.
Yeah.
The result is not virtue. Sandy?
This is related to George's question, but sometimes you can be saying something, then realise, oh, I'm just talking all about me, and then you can sort of switch it.
That's right.
And be more intentional with what you've said, because sometimes you don't know what you're going to say.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. So this one's kind of, you can see Dharma practice is not an easy thing. You have to sort of slow down and be intentional about what you're doing, because this intention is the karma. But it's the most important thing, that this karma is going to create some sort of consequence. Yeah, so you see for the training in the colleges and the monks, they really try to slow down, right? Slow the mind down, be very careful about how they speak, what they engage with their senses. Where we're pretty active as lay people. We're much faster than them and therefore not so aware, not so skillful. Ruby, you're going to ask something? Yes, so Ruby just said that in terms of the strong karma, it can be positive or negative. That's correct, yes. And the next bit, Ruby, was? Yeah, again, so we can have, so this wish that people become enlightened, it's a specific wish. It's built out of love and compassion, and then a sense of personal responsibility. They all come together. But you can also just do love, compassion, but that doesn't mean it's the mind of enlightenment. Love and compassion are steps. And then you come to this personal responsibility. Some of you might recollect the trainings in the mind of enlightenment. There's a number of different steps. There's 7 steps, I think, in it. So again, you can have great kindness towards others and wish them to be well. But again, it's like you've got to check, is that well in what way? Is it happiness here? Or do you mean well in the sense of being completely free from suffering and its causes? Or do you mean full enlightenment? Only you know. Oh yeah, the action has to follow. Like you see when you look at this, like I said a little while ago, when you break this up, the simple way is you've just got the thought or intention, there's the action that completes. There's 3 parts. Then you break it up, and it goes, oh, there's an object, because you're going to have an object, a person. You're going to speak to them, then you have an intention to speak to them. Then there's the action, there's the completion. Then you can make it larger, and they do. They go, okay, now with this thought, it's got 3 parts to it. It's got to be the correct person, and so forth. Then it's like, how is it done? Then you look at the weight and the strength. So like I said, this is a very big topic. But what we're trying to do here is just give it to you simply first, so you get the basic principles and get used to, okay, with an action, there's a basis or an object, there's the thought, the intention, there's the action, and then it finishes. And if it's all done, all the parts are there, it's a seed. So, okay, I got that part. Now break it up a bit. So who's the person you're speaking to? Because there's differences. If it's your parents, it's got a lot of strength. If it's a teacher, it's got a lot of strength and weight. If it's a stranger, it's different. It's not as heavy, not as strong. Right? So there's a lot of sort of finesse you've got to find out. It's all there. It just takes. Now, so I guess it's a way you sort of get used to. You've got to get one thing in place, and we add the next layer. And we add the next layer. It's like painting, You sketch something out, and you gradually fill in the colours. You finally got the painting to satisfy. It comes like that. It's layer upon layer, built up, and it produces its consequence. So I'll show this next slide shows you this, sort of show the parts and the complete effect of a thrown karma. So here the karma is one of offensive speech. So you can see I've put the 4 parts in there, and there's complete effect. So we've got a basis, it would be a person. It says here, a living being who can engender hostility. This is if it's negative, but if it's positive towards a spiritual teacher or a spiritual community, your family, close friends. Right? So you restrain. This is powerful when you restrain your offensive speech to those people. It's more powerful if it were to a stranger, for instance. Then there's the attitude. So I said before, the attitude's got 3 parts. You can see this. You've got to perceive it's the right person. I'm speaking to Sandy and not Debbie. What's driving it? If it's affliction, what affliction? Because it could be just ignorance, which would be lighter than hatred or attachment. In terms of the action, you can see on the bad speech, the offensive speech, the speech that will harm, you can say it's saying something unpleasant. It can be either true or false. And it's about, say, what you see is the qualities lacking in someone. Their family, their body, ethical discipline, behavior, all sorts of things. And you can see, so on the positive side, there is the restraint. So you restrain yourself from that, but then you say something positive. So restraint, of course, is very powerful. You restrain yourself from harming anybody with the speech, and that's the beginning. We need to learn to do that first. Just stop doing what harms us and the other person. Then, once we get a bit of space and get used to this, we go, actually, I could say something decent here. I could say something useful and helpful. I'll say that. So we put that in. The difference comes in the attitude. No, it's not coming out of affliction. He's not trying to hurt them.
No, he just wants to say what.
Just, yeah, what's honest. So, okay, so you're soft, so you got to think, right, there's two karmas going on here, right? One is from the Chinese side and one's from the Dalai Lama side. So the activity of the speech and so forth, that's all the Dalai Lama side. Well, okay, let's look at the Dalai Lama speaking to the Chinese officials, right?
It's all the things that have happened over 70 years.
Yes, but he's speaking. It's not the things. He's speaking, isn't it? The activity is speech.
And his letters and.
Yep, so it's all speech. It's communication, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not offensive.
Also, that's right. So it's not offensive.
Even though it's honest.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's not offensive and it's honest. Isn't that virtuous? Isn't that good?
Yeah.
Now we have the book. We've only just bought the book in the library. Yeah.
Well, I'd be interested to know what you think at the end of it.
So?
I'd be interested to know what you think at the end.
Oh, well, I'm sure. I mean, I read a lot of his books, but not that particular. Like I said, it's only just come in.
Okay.
But like you say, if you look at from the restraint from his speech, the writing that's coming across to you, so you think that okay, his words have been written down. Then you look at it and goes, okay, so I am not a lama, I'm not a sangha, I'm not a family, I'm not a close friend. I'm simply being reading this. That's the basis. Now that's you. Because here, like I said, we've got two lots of karmas here. One is the Dalai Lama's karma, one is yours. And so you can say, okay, this is the basis is me, the reader. The attitude. What's the attitude in this writing? Is he trying to harm me with his writing? You go, no. Okay, that's a restraint from harm. So one of the things you can go, like the attitude is one of great honesty, isn't it? It's the term you use for it. Yeah, that's okay. Yep. So then you can say, how he's speaking with mindfulness. Yeah. He's vigilant, of course. And while adhering to the correct view of the mundane, which is the mundane is ordinary life, the way you ordinarily speak to people. Well, it's actually all of it.
Yeah, all of it. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is your example, right? You could take that particular book or any other book now that you read, or in your conversations, you break it down like this. Right? You know, okay, this is the base, this is the four parts of the action. What goes on? What I need to do. So this is the idea of me drawing up these charts for you. And this is the idea of what we've just done. Give a great example, right? Like I've just been reading this book. He's communicating through speech, or that's written. How has he done it? So you look at his one and go, well, this here is the basis of the Dalai Lama. He's a Lama. He's talking to another person, me. So you've got two bases there. The person communicating, the Dalai Lama, and the other person receiving the information. So when you work with karma, it's important to be quite clear about what's the object. Is it me or is it the other person? Now, if you say the other person, well, you'll be clear yourself, and I actually don't know. So it's either one or two things. It either is negative or it is virtuous. And you can just run through again and go, okay, if it was like this, it's like this. And also remember that it doesn't always follow that all this is in place. This is the ideal if everything's in place. So you might have the basis would be a living being. So, okay, that's right there, that's complete. Yeah? But the attitude could be mixed up. You might start off with like, you have this intention to cause no harm, but as you're going along, become a little impatient. Right? And then get a little pushing. So now it's like what started off really well is sort of degenerating, but then you might get the other parts all nice and clear and clean. So you learn, okay, it actually finishes. It's not as strong as it was all clean, is it? Because one part was missing or got weakened. And this is like the idea of seeds, no? They don't all have the same potential. I mean, they have the potential, of course, to create their plant, but sometimes you get healthy seeds, some are rotten, some get damaged. So the whole crop, it's not all the same, is it? And this is the same with us. This is why it's so tricky, in a way. You can only sort of talk about it in generalities. But it should be enough for us to talk about it in general terms so that we can apply it. That's the idea. It's not that from our perspective we can actually look at somebody else and make a judgment call on what they're actually doing and what their things will be. It's impossible. But we could do it with much more specificity and honesty if we look at ourselves. That's the one person we can be sure of. And this is really the goal. You see this again and again in the Buddhist text. Stop looking at others and making calls on them. We don't know. We don't know. Look at yourself. That's where the changes need to be made, not on others. So I hope you do. And as you can see, if all the parts are in place, basis, attitude, action, and combination, and it is negative, the result is lower realm rebirth. That's the complete effect of the throwing karma. So it means that, for instance, here we are as human beings, right? We will come to the end of our life and we will be thrown into some other rebirth. So the activities that we've done in this life and in past lives, we don't know which seed will come up. That's the tricky thing. So not knowing, then the idea is, okay, then whatever comes like this, I want to awaken that seed with something positive. So if I bring in affliction, the affliction is not going to wake up something positive. It's going to wake up a negative seed. They're related. So you want to wake up a positive seed at the time of your death. And the only way to do that is to die with a positive mind, with good intentions. And that, But that's not again, that's a different karma. Right? It's the person speaking who's creating the karma. That's what I'm saying. It's like, don't keep switching around and going, what's your intention here? So you've got, again, so like you might say, so the parent wants to help prevent a child from being harmed or hurt. This is their intention. Their attitude is like, the perception is all in place. Now, okay, what's the attitude here is to stop the child from being hurt, isn't it? Okay. Then their action is what? So sometimes it might be like offensive words. Right? So this is it's like good, not so good. Even though the intention is to prevent my child from harm, sometimes, like you say, the words come out, they might be quite harsh. But like I said, the major thing is the attitude. So still, it's like a good karma, it's a good karma, it's a good seed, but it's not as strong as if you could have said something that wasn't so unpleasant and worked. Some of you might recollect the story where when the Buddha was a bodhisattva at some stage of his, before the person who became the Buddha, at one stage of his life was a bodhisattva, he was not the Buddha. He's on a spiritual journey. Right? You might have heard of the story where he's on a boat. He realizes there's somebody on this boat that's going to kill everybody on the boat. Right? So he doesn't want the perpetrator, the person who's going to do this killing, to have on his mind stream the deaths of 500 people. He also doesn't want the 500 people to die. And the story is in such and such, there's no other means to stop this person than to kill him. So he does. So what happens to the Buddha? Does he have this person, this bodhisattva, what happens to him? Does he escape all pains and things like that? The answer is no. In fact, when they asked him why, when Devadatta tried to kill him and he was injured, they said, what is the cause of this? And the Buddha says, in a previous life, I was on the ship and this is what happened, right? So of course, it's like another complete positive act. So I get some harm. And what happened? His toe was gashed. Yeah, his toe was hurt. Right? When if you think, normally the result of killing is, and so again, it's like if you kill with malice and with and you complete the action in a really nasty sort of a way, right? So you've got all four places. You've got the person you're going to kill. You actually kill them. You have the intention is one of malice. You find out some sort of nasty way to do it. You do it that way, and then you're glad. So now you've got four parts in place for terrible rebirth. Then at the time of one of your deaths, you have a disturbed mind. It wakens that seed. Now you get the effect. And so the Buddha, so this thing of having the gash toe, this is what they call the completing karma. It's not the throwing karma. In your life, other things happen, they complete it. Because of all the things you did, you never, like you think, you need a disturbing emotion to wake, to sort of energize that seed, to throw you into the life. You can't have them because he's only got good intentions. But so how does this activity of killing that person so many lifetimes ago, it's got to come to fruition in some way. How? What happens? Well, my toe got cut. And there are plenty of stories like this. There's a story of a king's son who wanted to be the king and he killed his mother and father. Right? And it's like, oh my gosh, it's like, well, what's going to happen here? And here's this intense remorse. So at the time, so straight away, that's a great thing because it weakens the karma immediately. The activity was carried out, but was followed by intense remorse. So that's a weakening of it. Anyway, it says that now if he took rebirth into hell, but what happened was like he sort of went in and out really quickly. Yeah. There's all sorts of nuances here that you've got to sort of bear in mind. Don't get stuck. Anyway, that's interesting stuff. So please, anything else you'd like to say about this completing karma? Yes, Sandy. Oh, sorry, the throwing karma.
Throwing karma. So we've had beginningless lives. So we've also had beginningless lives in other realms, haven't we?
Yeah.
So we've been in hell realms.
Yeah.
We've been in God realms.
Yeah, that's what it said. Yeah.
As has everybody else.
Yeah. Well, you can we make this assumption, isn't it? It's like, okay, if it's beginningless, and you've got all these things that we've created, all the causes we've created, then the effects will also follow. And we don't know what those are, but this is sort of the safe assumption to make.
Yes.
the logical assumption to make. Yeah.
And because of that, we can't complain about, well, this thing happened to me, it's not
No,
fair,
No,
because.
all that not fair stuff doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
No, it's like saying it's not fair that I put a chili seed in there, it's all around and made it all nice and warm, and a chili plant come up. It's just not fair. It just doesn't make any sense. So all this stuff is really, it all comes back down to causes and effects. Causes, conditions, and effects. So yeah, the fairness idea is out the window. It's a sort of moral judgment idea. We are the ones who created our own suffering. We are the ones who have to put an end to it. Which is great, isn't it? I mean, that's good news. Imagine if it weren't the case, it was all up to somebody else.
And I think the greatest tragedy about that is we ignorantly created those causes. We didn't even realize we were creating causes. So I found that it's helpful to bring compassion into that and not to be all judgmental that, oh, well, I deserve this. That's completely not what karma is about anyway.
No, that's right. And we'll talk about this next week when we do the purification thing, because when you look at this, it's not, you can't blame yourself. It's the actions. It's just action, effect. Action supported by conditions, effect. You're the person who didn't know. You come along for the ride. Like we say, we're not our behaviours, are we? We have behaviour, so we can't be the behaviour. We have behaviours. These behaviours, like I say, are driven by a lot of stuff we don't know about. Sometimes I speak from my own experience here. Sometimes you don't know why you do things. You think you're going to do this thing and you end up doing another thing. And people say, why'd you do it? Like, I don't know. I don't know. And it's true, we don't know. Now, this is what they call like ignorance. But we still get these effects, right? And sometimes these effects can be driven by what we call ignorance, just not knowing. It's still an effect that's going to follow. And some of those effects can be a heck of a lot less than if you did it knowingly. And so, like you're saying, Sandy, like all of us, I'm sure, don't know what the consequences of many of our past actions will be. We just don't know. Not only do we not know that, we don't even know the mechanisms of it all. In fact, the Buddha says, look, you'll never know that until you get enlightened. It's quite shocking, isn't it? Like, especially if you look at in our justice system, it's one of retribution, isn't it? Often. It's like when somebody does something wrong, they need to be punished. We will punish them. I will punish them. In other words, what you're saying is, I'm going to punish myself. I'm going to hurt myself by hurting the other person. We don't know. No one would do that willingly, would they? Or naturally, if you knew that, every prosecutor or judge who sends someone to the elected chair would go, I'm not doing that. But there's no knowledge of it. But so people behave unskillfully with a sort of this judgmental way of like, we need to hurt the hurters. Now it's like, what you're trying to do is to restrain them from harming others. Yeah. And there are certainly people that need to be restrained. There's no doubt about it. But, so this is intention. We need to restrain this person from being in society because they're a danger. But then to say, not only do we go to restrain them, we go to hurt them too. This is not a good idea.
Positive volition. Yeah,
that's right. It's all positive, right? The way you said to have that part, but then add the next part. That's and I'm sure they don't do that anyway, do they? The judges, I'm sure, don't do that. They have just this idea of, no, we need to separate me from society. But there's others in there that, especially the jailers themselves, they have a different idea. George?
How about
eating animals, consuming dairy, etc., like that, would that be seen as a negative thing?
No, not from a Buddhist perspective. It depends again. Sometimes it's seen to be quite unskillful, and they will ask you to restrain from it. Like His Holiness has been asking all the monks to restrain themselves from eating meat. But the negativity is not really eating meat; it's killing.
Yeah, okay.
That's the thing. Because if you think of it, like an animal could just die. Right? So often they used to do it. The animals would die, then the people in the monastery could eat that meat. Right? And you look at it like, wow, it's amazing. This beast would give up its life, and I can now sustain mine. And so oftentimes we give lots of pujas of thanks to the beings who got their lives. You know? And we are to do the same when we eat. Right? It's to sort of, we bless the food, and we're to sort of recollect the kindness of all these beings who've lost their lives so that we can maintain ours. So it becomes a virtuous thing. Okay, so we moved on, so we've got another half hour to go. We'll now look at completing karma. So what completing karma is? So you can see here, I've tried to get this picture where all the arrows are actually missing the center of the target. That's basically these actions are not complete. So completing karma is an incomplete action. So before we had the 4 parts of the action, 1 part is missing, or 2 parts are missing. Or if they're there, they've been weakened in some way. So they don't have the power to throw you, but they have power to complete something in your life. Like in that story about the Buddha, the cut toe. Like for us in this life, we might be like being sick, having the flu. These are some of the things. You know, what's the karmic cause of that? You say, you know, well, it wasn't a complete action of taking the life of somebody, but we harmed somebody somehow. Now we are harmed. It doesn't mean, so again, it's not necessarily that the fact is that you get the flu. It's what's going on with your mind. So we're talking here like a karmic consequence. Well, you know, it's natural. We have this. There's lots of ways we can talk about the body and how it's influenced. So the incomplete action is determined. Now, the completing karma shapes the specific conditions and circumstances of your experience within a particular rebirth. So here we are now, rebirth, we're experiencing different phenomena. We're getting effects. And it's like, what causes them? Well, there's got to be some biological causes. There's something that's it's just cause and effect. It's not karmic cause and effect, it's just cause and effect. But there's a subset of that called karmic cause and effect. What might they be? And so I read a book by this guy's, you might know Sandy, I'll pass this book on to you. This Christian guy who had no belief in rebirth and then discovered that rebirth actually took place. No, there's something like that. And this guy, what was famous, remarkable about him was that he used to take phone calls. So people would get sick, right, all over the United States, and they would ring him, and he would lie on his couch, and his receptionist would take the call and describe the symptoms, and he would lie there and go, in this other life, you did this and this and this. Right? These are the karmic causes of the illness you're experiencing in this life. So you need to change your diet and do this, all these different things, right? And then this will do it. This guy was a Christian guy. He never changed his faith, but he couldn't get the thing together. He just said, okay, like past lives exist. I'm getting the messages. I can see it. There's a huge library in the United States of this guy's work. It's still there.
Is he alive?
No, he's passed for some time. Very interesting story. Yeah.
And when I read that the Christians actually believed in reincarnation until about the 4th century.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that right?
Yeah.
One of the Roman Christians
That's
decided
right.
to go out of it.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, and it was, like I said, this was interesting to find, this was quite shocking to understand too, finding that many of the illnesses that we experience in this life were because of things we've done in past lives. So that might also help us understand that sometimes the illnesses we've experienced in this life can't be found by the Western doctors because they're looking purely for the physical causes, when the actual cause is karmic. So you need to treat it in a different way. And so you see sometimes the lamas can be quite strange, what seems strange instructions. They're working on the karmic level, not the physical level. It's unlike throwing karma, which requires all four elements to be present. Completing karma occurs when these factors are incomplete. For example, if someone breaks ethical rules, but also practices generous giving with mixed motives, the negative throwing karma might lead to an animal rebirth, but the positive completed karma could result in favorable conditions, like being born as a beloved pet in a caring family. So you see this all over the place in terms of lower realm rebirths, don't you? It's not all the animals end up in the royal family, but like the royal corgis, right? But we take in cats and we look after them and dogs. So the throwing karma was negative. Completed karma is good, much better than finding yourself on the street or dropped in the desert somewhere, right? There's a lot that people do that to a lot of animals, don't they? They ditch them, they hurt them, they do all sorts of things to them. But not all animals meet the same fate. So completed karma is about explaining that. And so, anything you'd like to ask about this before I show you this little chart I put up? So again, the throwing karma determines the realm of rebirth. This will be positive or negative. That's the throwing karma. It's quite straightforward. The completing karma is when all the four parts of the actions weren't complete, but they still take part in the life you find yourself in. They don't have the power to throw you anywhere, but they have the power to affect your life while you're in that environment, while you have that body. The completing karma determines the quality of life, not the rebirth itself. It adds details like health, wealth, and relationships. It explains why beings of the same realm have very different lives. So a good birth, as you know, can still involve a lot of suffering. So there's many humans out there. So you go, okay, what was the throwing karma to produce that human rebirth? You have to go, it was virtuous. The virtuous throwing karma. They're reborn human beings. There's about 6 or 7 billion of us on the planet now, isn't there? And you can look at it and go, man, the circumstances are that we all find ourselves that are very, very different. So, why? The completing karma explains that. That's why it's in this category. There's a quote here from the Sutra of the 100 Actions. It says, the joys and sorrows of all beings all come from their actions, said the Buddha. The diversity of actions creates the diversity of beings and impels their diverse wanderings. Vast indeed is this net of actions. Yeah, it's like the saying said, if you think about beginning this rebirth, no first cause can be found without beginning. But then you think, wow, man, and what's the function of the sentient being? To act. To act. most of our actions are unskillful. You know, we had this woman the other day talking about we have to survive. We have to survive. You know, yeah, we all die. You know, so what do we do to survive? Whatever it takes. Most people do. Animals do, whatever it takes. Then they all die anyway. What were those actions? What were those actions to survive? Were they skillful? Were they kind? Were they righteous? Or were they, you know, all about me? I need to kill you to eat you to live. That's what the animal realm is all about. In our realm, we're going, oh no, I'll breed all you animals and stick you in terrible conditions, and then I'll kill you and eat you. To survive, we say. Why do we need to do this? Yeah, so I look at this idea, vast indeed is the net of actions. It's trying to show us that karma is not a simple personal system of cause and effect. It sort of highlights the interconnectedness of all of life. Because our actions don't just affect us, do they? All these, you know, they affect the people around us, our loved ones, strangers, all sorts of people. In fact, some actions, as you well know, many of the great difficulties we face in this world are actions taken just after the First World War. Like, for instance, many of the problems in the Middle East. So drew up boundaries, you know, made up these things, and the problems are right happening full on right now, over 100 years later. Now we get the huge effects of these decisions, the consequences. So there's this huge interconnectedness. And oftentimes, you know, when we find trouble here, we often look like for the immediate cause, and there's the problem. But then you look at the bigger picture, the deeper picture, you find actually it goes right back here. So you can do that historically, but then if you go further, not so into history, but like why were the decisions made? You'll come to greed. Greed, ignorance, hatred even. Basically, it comes back down to mental states. There's karma.
And there's three on the either like ignorance, attachment, aversion. It comes down to those three.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you can bring it right down to that, which makes it sort of simple. This is a nice way too, where you don't blame people or nations. You go, no, the person's under the control of these afflictions. If any blame is to be made, that's where it should be put. You should be going, this is what drove me, the sentient being, to create these actions. So we try to, in Buddhism is like finding the root of the problem. It always comes down to like ignorance, a misapprehension of how things exist. You think it's like this and they're wrong. And then we act anyway. We act anyway, we think we're right. Or to survive, or for the benefit of our friends, you know, to harm our enemies, we act. And the consequences can be huge. There's a great poem about this, I think Australian author wrote it, like the hand that signed the document. You know, just as all it took was a signature. And then this massive suffering took place over hundreds of years because of this. So in terms of an analogy, like this, like building a house, right? So the throwing karma provides the foundation and the basic structure. The completed karma fills it in, it does all the finishing, puts up the walls, makes the basic starts. You complete your life. It's all stuff that completes it. Okay, so here I thought of this picture to give you some idea here. When you look at virtuous, so you've got the two things, right? You've got virtue and non-virtue. You've also got throwing and completing. What would be the result of non-virtuous throwing and a virtuous completing, or a non-virtuous throwing and a non-virtuous completing karma? It's sort of, I'm trying to make it, break it all down and put it into little things like, it's just easier to get your head around me just talking to you about it, right? And just get lost in language. So I'll just see what comes up, right? So virtuous throwing and virtuous, I don't know what will come up first. What's up? Aha. So God realms in samsara. these God realms are not like what we think of as Christian God realms or the way the Greeks saw them. You know, we need to picture someone, you have a God, right? They're really states created through your own mind, through deep states of concentration, where no non-virtue can arise. The mental states keep them down. They cannot arise at the time of your death. So you don't go through a baddha when you're reborn. You find yourself in this very subtle mental state. And in those states, you cannot experience the feelings, you cannot experience the feeling of anger. You cannot be angry there. You can't experience the feeling of it. It's like a blissful state, but you're in samsara. And one day, the power of that, your concentration to keep you there, falls away. And you plunge. That's your death. You die from that realm. So the gods die, but they're still in samsara. So virtuous throwing, virtuous completing. Virtuous throwing and non-virtuous completing. So here we find ourselves virtuous throwing, human beings. Non-virtuous completing. We get sick. We meet up with all sorts of problems. Right? Let's fill it in. And the stuff that fills in our lives. So non-virtuous throwing, we'll see which comes up. Here's a non-virtuous throwing and a non-virtuous completing. So non-virtuous throwing, of course, any realm is going to be beneath the human beings, beneath the gods. It's gods as tops, humans, everything else is beneath. So an animal rebirth. And this one is like a homeless dog starving on the streets, you know, a bad rebirth, we would say. It's one we can see in the world, right? Those dogs that are like put into animal shelters, and cats and dogs, and they're like, yeah, they're just thrown away. Or like all the animals that are in the animal farms, feedlots, all this terrible stuff that we do to animals. So that's, yeah, non-virtuous completing karma as well as a non-virtuous throwing. Next one. There we have non-virtuous throwing and virtuous completing. So this would be like the corgis that were born, that the queen looks after, or even a pet that you might have. How lucky for them. Yeah, they're in the lower realms, but we're looking after them. We feed them, we pamper them, we take them to the vet. That's good life for an animal, right? A better life than non-virtuous completing, that's for sure. For the bodhisattva to be thrown into the hell realm would require us to have a negative mind. So it depends like that. So it depends what level the bodhisattva is on, and it may not. It may be the appearance of a bodhisattva, but not an actual bodhisattva. Because this is some of the powers they have, right? You can, when you get up to these high bhumis, so what, you know how we sit here, like, we have all these thoughts. Right? We think all sorts of different thoughts, don't we? One after another. Right? So imagine you've trained yourself to, if you have the body of the bodhisattva, it's a mental body. At this high level. So they're not like one of the manifestations as is an ordinary human being, like the Dalai Lama, for instance. So the body, Dalai Lama can appear to be a bodhisattva to some people, he can appear to be a Buddha to others, he can appear to be an ordinary monk to others, the Chinese, he can appear to be an enemy in the youth. Right? There's your appearances. What is he? Who is he? Well, one thing we say depends on name and appearance. So that's the Dalai Lama. Bodhisattvas are the same. And at these high levels, what the goal is you're trying to help people. So they sit in these meditation states, and they manifest the bodies to go to wherever it's required. So in the hell realms, the bodhisattvas manifest. In fact, there's a great story I read of this woman, they're called Daleks. And what they do is, in this world, they look as if they've died, but they haven't. But to all appearances, they're dead. So what they do is they seal them off so nobody can disturb them. And they, like I said, just appear to be dead. After a period of time, they come back, they wake up, and then they tell you, this is where I went. So this woman, this Dalek, goes to the lower realms. So, and this is an amazing thing that happened there. Right? So she's there, and called Yama, the god of death, appears, right? And beside him, he's got these two fierce henchmen. And they come to and say, so you're here. Let's have a look at what you've done. And they call it the mirror of karma. So Yama holds, the sister holds up the mirror and says, you've been a pretty good person, but this action here, you did this. When you were so old, you crushed the egg of this little bird, took the life, therefore punishment. She immediately goes, Amani Pemit, and starts praying. Right? Yama turns into Avalokiteshvara. The two henchmen turn to white Tara and green Tara. So these places are mind created. All the hells are mind created. They're not like physical. If you're there, it's going to feel like this, right? Real, physical. That's one of the things about creating the hell realms. They're minds of great certainty and tightness. So it's like this, like a plane. So the bodhisattvas can be there appearing as hell realm beings. In our realms, like, as I say, be very careful about who you think, what you think things are and who they are. You just don't know. So in our space, we have this person who, the Dalai Lama said, no, look, I'm just an ordinary monk. And some will say, he's a great human being. So we've got a human being, he's an ordinary monk. Others who've been around a long time, this is one of the greatest bodhisattvas, like Lama Zopa, right? Others go, not only that, he's a Buddha, fully awakened being. He's a manifestation of Avalokiteshvara, appearing to us as a human being, ordinary monk, all these different things. They're the same way, Sandy, like the Bodhisattva or the Dalai Lama, right? Therefore, your practice at those high tantric levels, bodhisattvas, that's the idea. Wherever there are realms, I will send out my mental manifestations. Like thoughts, I'll say. You know these thoughts? Right? You create a thought, they create effects. A thought will create an effect. So they create thought bodies to go into these thought realms to do good. Now, so it's not like when we talk about this with the bodhisattvas, it doesn't, if a bodhisattva is on the high level, tell another story, said one of the great bodhisattvas, this is what he wanted, right? He said, okay, this is not my job, this is what I want to do. I want to go to the lower realms and help all sentient beings there. And right on his deathbed, he's weeping. And his assistant says, what's wrong? What's wrong? He said, oh, everything I wished for, it's not coming true. It can't be. What do you mean? He got shocked. He says, well, I've been praying to be reborn in the hell realms to help them, but I'm going to be reborn in the heavenly realms instead. But yeah, that's right. This virtue does not chuck you in the lower realms. You can't go there. It's like causes and effects are now distorted. It would be like saying, the four principles of karma. Yeah, I can create a good act and I'll get a bad effect. Can't be done. No matter how much you wish for it, it's not going to happen. It depends what you mean by a higher realm. Like for us, right? We're in a higher realm, so we try and help the animals as much as we can. We don't hurt them, we house them, we feed them. That's a simple. Because we are talking about what's interesting. Is there anything else you'd like to ask about this? You find it interesting? No, that's right. Yeah, because most of our actions, they're sort of mixed up. You know, they're mixed. A lot of our actions are mixed. It takes a lot of discipline and time to sort of make it clearly one and not the other. This is what I often say. They're like, you know, what we can do, which is not mixed up and will always be clear, is the intention. Our actions that follow might be all over the place. But the intention can always be clear, and at the end, we can always be clear then. You know, so often for my things, like whatever I do today, may it be a cause or a condition that will bring about enlightenment for others. Whether it was harsh speech, blah, 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 whatever, you know. Because like you start the day off with a good intention, we start our class off with a good intention. While we're sitting here, all sorts of thoughts are going through our mind. We're not creating any negative karma with our bodies. No one here is creating any with their speech. That's all good. Then we leave here and stuff happens. And then our discipline wavers. We're all over the place. This is how life is for us. But at the end of the day, you know, we go, okay, so today I set off with a good intention. That was great. I did that for sure. During the day, I was here and there. All my activities scattered all over the place. That's true. But however it worked out, I still want whatever was good. Let it go towards enlightenment. And so for there's lovely prayers you could say about this. You know, like for instance, yes, I created some bad actions today. Well, may that be the support for the bad actions of everybody else. Let me have all those too. So now your bad action becomes one of virtue. You turn it around. You try and free everybody else of their negatives. Yeah, well, yes, I did. This will be the foundation of support for everyone else. Let me have that. Let it destroy my self-cherishing. And then we finish up, and whatever else is there, I'll dedicate it all to enlightenment. Again, it's like Kintsa Rinpoche said, he says, it's not that we don't know, it's that we forget. And you know, mindfulness is the number one remedy to stop forgetting. Mindfulness is the opponent to forgetting. So if we just remember and be kind enough to ourselves to say, I can set good motivations, I can do that. In the middle, I act, I'm not so good. But at the end of the day, I can set a good dedication. I can do that. And of all the activities you do in the day, they're the two most important. And 7-point mindfulness is always recollect the two important points. Yeah, what are they? Motivation, dedication. We can do that. Well, let's do our meditation. We'll call it a day. Yeah. Shuffle about, move your position, drop your shoulders. Get your body to settle into comfort. And just let your breath flow naturally. You want to release any tension or urgency from the day. And now we can set a good motivation. So set a motivation to understand karma, not just for your own personal gain, but to uplift all beings who endure suffering. What uplift them is the fully awakened state. Therefore, I am going to become awakened for the benefit of all beings. Now, recall that each action plants a seed or a potential for a future experience. Throwing karma determines the realm we're reborn into. Completing karma shapes the conditions within it. So imagine building a home. Throwing karma forms the foundation and walls, while completing karma adds the furniture, the lighting, and the ambience that make it joyful or challenging. So for you, how does recognizing this dual nature of karma influence daily choices? knowing that harsh words don't just wound briefly, but could design future misfortune, encourages restraint and compassion. Each interaction becomes both a blueprint and a brush stroke. Each action lays structure and adds beauty or harshness. So what if you viewed each gesture as crafting both the framework of your future and its decor? This mindset elevates the ordinary, transforms your smallest actions into conscious creation. A smile is both architecture and ornament. So how might this wisdom support you through today's challenges and relationships? How can this wisdom support you through today's challenges and relationships? So when difficulty arises, remember, your response is not only a solution, but an act of construction. You are building tomorrow's reality. And just try to carry this insight forward and let your choices create foundations of peace and rooms of radiance. And breathing in through your nostrils. Exhale through your mouth. Let your eyes flush open. Bring your awareness back into the space we're in. So for today, you guys all know what a throwing karma is, what it produces, your realm of rebirth, and the completing karma that fills it in. Now, there's no material up there on the site about this. So if you'd like to review the past material, especially the four principles, understand what is certain about karma. Good produces good, the bad produces the bad. That actually is made up of 4 parts and so forth. Just try and generally get into your mind stream. Next week we'll look at purified karma with the 4 opponent powers. Okay, so here we go. Here's what we can do good. It's all worked out for us. We just go along with it. So this, we've created merit, we've created spiritual energy by being here together and engaging in this topic. You guys focusing on it, that's energy. We want to direct this energy towards a really good goal. And join me in saying, due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel, bodhicitta, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline but increase forevermore. And as long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, may I too remain to dispel the sorrows of the world. And for the honor of His Holiness, the wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, to the incomparably kind Tenzin Gyatso I beseech. May all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. And finally, for quick recognition of Rinpoche's reincarnation. In holding and spreading the movement's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable, venerable Guru, to you, I make this request. Okay, thank you everybody. So just another few minutes, but thank you.